Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Murfreesboro.com show. We appreciate you tuning in, as always. If you're new to our show, we talk about kind of all things Murfreesboro, people in the community, what's going on around town. And we have a great guest today who agreed to come on. Thank you, Miss Sara Campbell. I'm just going to ask, your title? Go for it.
I'm a board-certified mental health coach and a certified health and wellness coach.
Okay. Thank you. So, and I love the fact that we connected because we were going back and forth. We'll get into more of this here in a minute. But with what you do, because we do a lot with the schools and everything, and you directly work with the kids, and there's some things going on and things you're seeing more of I thought would be nice to address, put it out there for the public, because some of this sometimes I would imagine gets hard to talk about.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. And thank you for agreeing to talk about it
yes,
on camera with everybody. Yeah. So yes, thank you. So, but before we get into that, a little bit about you. So tell us, you're board certified in the, again, I'm sorry. You have a long title, so it's hard for me to remember.
You're fine.
Okay, so board certified. Go for it. Sorry.
Board certified in mental health coaching and certified in health and wellness. Okay. So I combine two different certifications, two different fields and trainings, and then put them together. All
right. And you're one of one, it sounds like, that kind of does both?
I'm sure there are people who do both. I don't really personally know of anyone who combines them, but I found that since our mental health and our physical health are so connected, almost everyone was having issues with both in some way and overlapping. So I loved both. Yeah. And I couldn't really decide a field, and so I just put them together.
There you go. What made you decide on that? And where was your, what's your background in schooling and stuff? Like, why did you take that path?
So not because it was just the career choice that was the best. It's very personal. So I had a lot of trauma and health issues growing up.
Oh, okay.
My dad was terminally ill my entire childhood. He had actually an LVAD. So you had someone come on your podcast. It was the St. Thomas Rutherford cardiac surgery team.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They were talking about how transplants and LVADs go to Nashville. He was an LVAD patient.
Wow.
So he had a pump on his heart, transplant list. So there's a lot of trauma there, but also I learned to take care of him. I loved learning about his body and how our heart worked from a young age. And so I had a fascination for medicine. And then I have pretty significant health issues. I've had 20 surgeries, and most of that was in childhood and teen years. So I struggled with panic attacks, and I had anxiety really young, and grief and trauma and stuff like that. So I was passionate about helping people with the mental health, but I also had this fascination for the way our bodies worked.
I gotcha. Did you have somebody that worked with you when you were growing up, kind of guiding through that?
I didn't. That's part of the reason I wanted to do it.
Throw you to the lions, and wow.
Right. I mean, I had my parents and my doctors, but they didn't really have all that 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
And here you are.
Here I am.
It shows your mental toughness right there. It's through the roof. Okay, gotcha. But there was one thing I loved when I was reading over your website and checking in on all your stuff, and you do so much is what it looks like, the different, I guess, things that you deal with and the things you address with these kids in the schools and what you do. I mean, honestly, it's hard. Hard to pick one and start, but you were saying that you're seeing a lot more. Like, let's take anxiety, for example.
That one's way high right now. It's probably the most common.
Yeah? Or is there a certain area in the school, like certain grades or certain...
It's everywhere.
Really?
It's little kids all the way up to adults.
Yeah?
Anxiety, panic attacks. It seems like more people have it than not right now.
Is there any type of correlation to anything that are you seeing, why? It's just... number of reasons?
So many things. Yeah, I think it's a lot. I think, COVID, pandemic was a big change, obviously. Yeah. There's just a lot of pressure on our kids. I think we have a lack of mental health services right now. The statistic is, I think, less than 15% of kids who end up having some kind of mental health challenge actually get professional help.
Oh, wow.
So I think they're just kind of building, and they're sharing it with their friends, and it's just spreading in social media.
Oh, God.
Just our world.
Yeah.
All of it together.
Yeah, I can't even imagine if social media was around when I was a kid. Oh, my God, some of the stuff you see online, that's crazy. But
yeah, they're exposed to so much more than we were.
And you had mentioned earlier off camera that I guess the treatment facilities that would address a lot of this stuff are getting full.
Yes.
And
so trying to get any kind of mental health service is hard right now.
Yeah.
Mental health has a different kind of continuum than our health system. A health system, you have so many different avenues. You have a nurse practitioner, a doctor. Then you step down to occupational therapy, physical therapy. You have so many levels of care.
Yeah.
Mental health, you pretty much have your licensed social workers and therapists and counselors, and then your psychiatrist, and that's about it. Inpatient and regular counseling.
I gotcha.
So with this influx of mental health concerns, there's not enough people to meet those needs. And so I provide a bit of a lower level of care. Okay. And then can help meet those more basic needs. Okay. But there's just not enough.
Yeah. Well, you say lower level of care. I think that's probably a misnomer there, because it sounds like you're just trying to get in before it gets too bad. Exactly. Right? Is that more like it? Okay. Good deal. I just want to make sure to hit that, because you're not a lower level of care per se. You're just trying to hit it before it gets bad.
Right. So I don't work with super highly clinical complex needs medication type issues. I work more with, the anxiety, the depression, the grief. And if you catch it early and you deal with it, it may not get to that point.
Yeah. So do you refer
Yes.
people? Okay. Gotcha.
Yep. I can refer out.
Okay. Yeah, I'd imagine
and I can continue working with someone if they have those more complex issues, but they may also need something higher level too.
Gotcha. Okay. Good deal. So like you were saying, the anxiety level, like with COVID and different things like that, are you seeing other reasons for that in general, or just was COVID a real big one?
COVID was big. I think social media is huge. There's just a lot of pressure. I think, and I think so many people think that there's something wrong with them because they have anxiety. Yeah. I see this in women a lot, but kids too. They think that they're weird or that they're abnormal for feeling these things, especially when they start having physical symptoms. They think something's wrong with them. Really? And then the more you try to suppress it and the more you focus on it, the worse it gets. And so they just continue to get worse.
Okay, I got you. Well, are there, like, for parents listening or watching out there, are there signs that they can look for with their kids? Or because I'm just thinking, some parents may just go, oh, they're just being a kid, or something. Oh, they're just acting out. Oh, they're part of their teenager. But there might be an underlying thing to look for, right? Yeah. So what are some signs that they could?
There's a lot. So 80 to 90% of kids will have a traumatic event in their childhood. So most kids will have something traumatic happen to them. So some of the signs that can be like tummy aches, that's a big one.
Is it?
Yeah. The kids, I got a tummy ache, I don't want to go to school.
Oh,
a lot of times that's anxiety. Yeah. They frequently just come and get you or seem needy, but there's not really a reason for it. They might just need that connection and that reassurance to be around you. Acid reflux. So any kind of stomach issue is a good sign. Feeling dizzy, sweating, shaking, bedwetting. That can be a symptom of trauma, nightmares, avoidance. Avoidance is a big one. Okay. Extra teary.
Extra teary. I gotcha.
And then some of that is hard to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Because I've been thinking some of the younger kids I know, sometimes they just disappear in their room to play their games. Right. For a long. So quite a difference between gaming and gotcha.
And some kids game for fun, and some kids game to block out the anxiety and to escape. So it's hard to. It can be challenging to know for sure. You just kind of have to try to put all the pieces of the puzzle together to see if it's anxiety.
So anxiety, and you have to excuse me, I don't know a lot about this, so I'm just going with the flow here. But anxiety, I would imagine, lead a lot to depression types. Okay, so what you deal with that quite a bit too? Depression issues?
And usually, like you said, it's more of a side effect of the anxiety.
Okay, gotcha.
Very few people are actually, that I work with, are clinically depressed. It's usually the anxiety has made them isolate themselves and feel like something's wrong with them or less valuable or incapable, which is not true at all, but they feel that way. And so that leads to them also feeling really down and depressed.
Yeah. Okay, I gotcha. I'm curious on I do want to touch on this one with the social media that we were talking about. So do you see that play a lot into the factors today? More so,
it does. Yeah. And TikTok and the news, you have so much more exposure. You're going to see more horror stories. 50 years ago, you got the news, you read the newspaper, and then you don't have any more bad news for the day unless you're just talking to someone. Yeah. Whereas now we're getting hit with it over and over and over again.
Yeah. I know. We were having a discussion the other day, simply about the phones in general and what phones do now. But it was do you remember back in the day? Maybe this one's for Jeff and I more so. But it was you had one phone in the house phone. But when it rang, it was for a reason. Like somebody wanted to talk to you, or they needed something or whatever. Now your phone's at your disposal so much for so many different things that you can be exposed to. Just like you were saying, like bad news or things that we see that's instant, bam, right in your face. And it's got to take its toll. Oh my gosh,
it does.
These poor kids. So.
And even just and technology is not all bad. Phones aren't all bad, and social media is not all bad, of course.
I get that. Yeah.
We even see just the overstimulation.
Yeah. Okay.
they're constantly getting fed all the stimulation. They're getting hits of dopamine in their brain. Over and over and over again. So they have a hard time sitting still. It makes them anxious to just be calm and to not have things going on. They're not outside as much. Being out in nature is good. They're not moving around, exercise. Your body needs that to feel good too. So there's a lot of different.
Is it kind of a catch-22 or a double-edged sword with some of it? Because I see a lot of parents that, I mean, some of these kids, they know the ins and outs of an iPad when they're like 3 years old.
Yes.
But they'll give it to them in order to just calm them down. And like, oh, they'll be distracted. I'm like, well, is that necessarily what you want? Or what are they looking at? Or were they playing? Because I've seen some kids that pull up on accident, and you're like, what are you looking at? Oh my gosh. But so even as little as 3 or 4 years old, we're seeing that. But dang. So you deal with, I didn't realize, I know we spoke mostly about kids, but you deal with adults as well?
Women.
Oh, women? Okay,
yes.
Gotcha. What, same type stuff?
Same type of stuff. Typically, I mean, my most common patient is someone who's struggling with anxiety and stress, and then usually some chronic illnesses there too.
Do you get a lot of are illnesses, you say the chronic illnesses, they brought on or made worse, exacerbated from the anxiety a lot of the times?
They go together. So even like I have a genetic connective tissue disorder. It's in my genes. It's not going anywhere. There's nothing I could have done to cause it or prevent it. And I have some heart conditions, endometriosis, a whole bucket of health issues. But I can't cause it by my anxiety. But if I'm feeling anxious or I've been really stressed for a long period of time, it's going to flare it up. And it's going to be a million times worse than it would if I was in a more relaxed state. And all that kind of goes back to your autonomic nervous system. You're in a sympathetic state, which is fight or flight, instead of parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. So you get
School
stuck.
Health class coming back. Flood right there. I remember those.
Your body's not meant to be that stressed out all the time. So it'll flare up health issues that are underlying.
So anxiety, depression, what are some other things that you see a lot of?
ADHD.
Oh, yeah?
That one's very common. And I think, go back to social media, I think a lot of that's because of TikTok. Not causing it, but people are realizing, oh, this is what it looks like in women, and this is what it looks like in little girls, because it's very different than your typical little boy who has ADHD. And so I think it's not that they have it more often now, but they're just realizing, oh, that's why I do that,
I gotcha.
Seeing a lot more.
Yeah. So, well, how is it different? I'm curious. You said like a little boy and the little girl. How's that different?
I mean, I don't want to completely stereotype because there's overlaps, of course, but typically a boy is going to be more hyperactive. So when you see a little boy with ADHD, they're a little more energetic and trouble sitting still. Right. Exactly. Girls sometimes are not even that wiggly. They might be fidgety. But they're not always super hyperactive. It's more just their brain is going. They're talking a lot. They have a hard time staying focused on one task. What can be tricky is they hyper-focus on things that they do like. So you might think, oh, they don't struggle focusing. They just don't want to do that. Well, they're not interested, so their brain's not going to give them the right amount of dopamine to complete the task.
So I was told ADHD is like having 50 TVs on in your brain.
Yes.
Yeah, and you can't find what to watch, and so you're constantly going.
Bouncing. It's exhausting.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine. So,
because it goes with anxiety and stuff, too.
Oh, yeah. And I've met some kids that, when they were younger, like little boys, they're just hyper. They're just being little boys. And then later on to find out, like, oh, they're having some issues, this is that. But so I'm curious as far as ADHD goes, what are some things that parents can do that don't want to go medication route, that sort of thing? What can they do?
Routines are good. Structure is good. Red 40 is kind of a big stimulator for focus and sugar. So trying to just cut that out of the diet or reduce
Red 40, the dye?
The food dye.
No way.
That's a big one, just kind of across the board.
Really?
Yes.
Food dye?
Food dye. Specifically the redwood. They've come out with a lot of research, and a lot of people have found it by accident. Like, oh, my kid is just wild when we have strawberry milkshakes.
No way. Yeah. I never knew that. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not completely all natural either, but that's one that is pretty much always there, Red 40. Then things like they need motivation to do their task because they can't get it on their own. So finding a way to motivate them, like first we're going to make our bed and then we're going to go outside.
Yeah.
And finding that motivation. Timers, especially visual timers, so they are often time blind.
Okay.
So it's hard for them to realize how much time has gone by, and the timer can be somewhat competitive for them, especially if they can see it. They're like, oh, wait, I've got like 5 minutes left. I got to hurry and finish eating. So to help them complete their task quicker.
Okay. That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And fidget toys. So this is really annoying to parents because when you're trying to talk to them, they're like, bouncing around, but they're actually listening better when they're moving.
No way.
Yeah. If
Really?
they have ADHD. Yeah.
So when you're sitting there like, what are you doing? God bless me. And they're listening.
Because if they are sitting still, oftentimes they are putting so much energy and so much brain power, and I'm having to sit still. Don't fidget. Sit still. Look, make eye contact. They're actually not listening because they're focusing so hard on sitting still.
No way. Okay. So sounds like almost kind of embrace it in a way. And just kind of work it. Like do you get things like positive reinforcement and negative, does stuff like that help? Yeah. Good job. Here's something.
Reward charts are great.
Really?
Sticker charts, reward
Sticker
charts.
Okay.
Yeah. Working towards a goal, treasure chest.
Yeah.
We have those in our house, treasure chests and sticker charts.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay.
Lots of those.
Okay, cool. Dang, I never knew that. All right, learn something new every day. That's really cool. Well, we can.
All kids are different. You got to find what works for each kid, but that's some kind of common ones.
Do you see, are there like levels of intensity when it comes?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Everything's different. Every kid is going to be different. Every adult is different.
Yeah.
There are things that kind of across the board,
Yeah.
but everybody's different.
So what would be like a minor case? Just having a hard time focusing, not staying on track, or okay.
Yeah, a little fidgety.
Okay, a little fidget. Okay.
Yeah.
What would be like an extreme version?
Oh, okay. That would be like.
You're like, well, you open that box. Okay.
Cannot sit still at all.
Yeah.
They're going to be having trouble in school. And usually those, I mean, they're smart most of the time, but their grades aren't going to reflect that because they can't sit still to focus on that task. Impulsivity.
Okay.
That's a big sign. Over talking.
Yeah, over talking. I gotcha.
Over talking, not being able to reel it in, and just kind of being impulsive with those behaviors.
Okay. I'm curious, at what level, at least in your experience, what would you recommend like a medication route?
So I don't do the official diagnosis, and I don't prescribe. I would say, try everything that you can first without it. And then if they're still struggling and it's to the point where they're having trouble in school or they're having trouble making friends, then, talk to your doctor and consider it.
Okay. So I knew a young man, well, he's a young man now, but years ago he was same thing. He was, he's just being hyper, he's just in that. But I mean, it was kind of on the extreme side, it was upside down in the chair, that sort of stuff. And it came to a point, I know his teacher recommended some medication when the parents were like, no, we don't want to do medication. But it came to that point. But it was literally like the next day that when he got on like his grades went up. Like this teacher was like, he's an amazing student. Like turns out he loves engineering and all this other stuff. And he's incredibly smart. He just could not focus. And
can't reel it in.
Yeah. And so in that case, I know that it's kind of one where it was necessary. But
and there are heavy duty medicines like the stimulants. There are other options besides stimulants. But one kind of funny thing is caffeine does the same thing as the stimulants in a way. So it actually would calm someone with ADHD instead of ramp them up.
Yeah. I've actually seen stuff on that because I used to drink a pot of coffee every day, and God bless. And it's crazy when you drink that much caffeine. I didn't really notice the effects until I stopped drinking, and then it was like, God, those headaches are horrible. And then you're sitting there just, like, I need that caffeine, I need that fix. Yeah. So I had to do the half and half caffeine decaf, and then like
wean off of it. So it's truly addictive.
Oh, totally. You've seen those studies where the brain activates and stuff, and. Like the sugar ones, I know you've seen those. Yeah. It's like, what is it? The same effect as like cocaine on your brain.
It does a lot. Crazy. It releases a lot of chemicals. It is.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah. Nutrition is.
Yeah, we can go down that. That's a long road to go down. One. Yeah. So, but okay. So we got like anxiety, depression, ADHD. What other kind of things have you seen or are you dealing with?
So kind of flipping to the health side of it that combines with the mental health, sleep.
Oh, yes. Please, for the love of God, help me.
Sleep.
I sleep like 4 hours a night, if that. Please,
oh, no.
How do we fix that?
A routine.
Routine?
That's hard sometimes, but sticking to it. This is my bedtime.
Yeah.
The earlier, the better, really. Our bodies are kind of, if you go back to the olden days, we're kind of made to go to bed when it's dark and wake up when it's light. It affects our circadian rhythm and just our whole body. having a nighttime routine and wind down time without the screens, because that's waking you up.
And that, like the blue light or something?
The blue light.
And
just
especially from iPhones, right? I think I read that somewhere.
You can do like blue light glasses or a blue light filter on your phone. And there's also like the night mode, and then turn your brightness way down. And that, I mean,
every little bit helps, I guess.
That helps a lot, yeah. Reading before bed is really good.
Is it?
It's kind of wind down.
Not on your phone.
Well, I mean, if you turn I'm guilty of that.
Joking,
you turn your brightness all the way down. Yeah, if you have the brightness up, you're not going to be going to sleep.
You're screwed.
Yeah,
I got
you'll be awake a while.
Yeah.
And no caffeine or sugar before bed.
Okay. Yeah.
Another thing, like for the worriers and the thinkers and the stressors, having a notepad with a pen, and when you have those thoughts, write them down. Like, oh yeah, I'll worry about that tomorrow, and writing it down.
I actually have started doing that. It does help. That does help. Yes.
It doesn't just bounce around in there.
Yeah, because my brain, I have a hard time at night. It's weird. Like I could be exhausted. Last night, perfect example. And I'll go to lay down, and I almost get a second wind the second I lay down. I'm like, why did I just suddenly wake up? And then this is just me thinking out loud here, but then usually I'll be like, okay, well, let me check my emails. Let me do this. Let me do that. So maybe if I condition myself to be like, oh, I lay down. Oh, check your emails. Check everything before you go to bed. Oh,
it may feel like work time.
Maybe. Great, I'm screwed.
You can change it.
Yeah, right?
Anything can be changed. It's just hard.
I was told about the notepad thing now, and I tried that. And that does help, because in the middle of the night, I'll wake up with an idea or something. Oh, don't forget to do this. And then I'll stress about it. Then I'll forget. I'm like, no, just write it down. There it is.
And I mean, even using your phone and putting it in a note is better than not doing it at all.
Yeah, you're right.
Phone is fine if you have to.
Yeah, it's over there. I have a little notepad. Yeah, I do that. So that's pretty cool. Okay, nice. But if you don't mind, I kind of want to switch gears a little, because I was really interested on something you mentioned. Like you help people that are going through organ donation.
That's one of the transplants.
Yeah. Transplants. Thank you. So I'm just curious. What do people like? Do you help people on both sides, like the donor and the donee?
Anybody. I mean,
okay.
As far as like the health issues, it can be really anything. I typically work more with like a chronic illness. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to cure anyone. I wish I could, but I can't. But typically the things I work with are not things that are going to be cured anyways. It's something genetic. It's something, a transplant. You can't undo that, or organ failure. A lot of autoimmune diseases that aren't easily reversible. So I'm not trying to fix, although that would be wonderful. It's more so just learning to manage the condition that you have and live the best life that you have while dealing with it, because it can become a full-time job just trying to manage. Yeah. And it's very overwhelming. And so I try to just help with that. So that's why I can do like a really broad range of health conditions, and I'm familiar with most of them. Yeah. But it's just more managing and living with it. So with like a transplant, for example, that's going to be, there's a whole to-do list pre-transplant. A lot of times you have to have a certain BMI. Okay. You have to have like mental health evaluations to make sure that you're ready for it. It's very
I've never
intense.
known anybody that's gone through this, so that's wow.
Yes, there's a lot to it, and it can be very stressful. So also just keeping the mental health side under control while we're dealing with that. There can be like dietary changes that have to be done, just depending on the organ and what the doctor's recommending.
Okay, yeah.
Exercise, being in shape. Then afterwards, you're going to be down a while. You're going to be recovering any surgery like that. So making a plan for how we're going to stay healthy, how we're going to stay motivated during that time. It's getting the mindset right, but then managing the medications that can be challenging. And said how are we going to do reminders, symptom logs.
Okay. Now, is that on both? Again, excuse me, I don't know anything about that part. So, is that on both sides? Like the person who donated, like say, donated a kidney,
like the living donor.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes. And is that also for the person that's accepting the kidney? Is that on both sides? They both have to prepare in that way? Or?
Not as much for the donor. I don't know as much on the donor side, but they don't have quite as much to do as the recipient. But
well. Yeah, that makes sense actually. Now that I always said that, yeah. Well, and they're the ones donating it, so I imagine they're probably a little more mentally ready. Okay.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes, okay, gotcha. That just hit me now when we were talking about that. Okay, gotcha.
They don't have as long of a road. They have basically a surgery, and then typically life is pretty normal after that once they recover from the surgery. Whereas with the transplant recipient, there's a lot. It's a lifetime thing of anti-rejection meds and things, more testing. So it doesn't end at transplant. There's still a long road. It's a lifelong.
Anti-rejection meds?
Yes.
So the body can reject the organ?
It can.
Ooh, okay.
Yes, and those anti-rejection meds are very important, but they're very serious and they have some side effects. So finding the right dose is challenging. Thankfully, I don't have to be the one to make the dose and make those calls, but
right.
but it can be challenging and very stressful.
I find that fascinating, though, that there's, I get the body can reject it. I totally get that. But that there's medicine to help with it, to stop that. That blows my mind.
It's fascinating.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Learn something new every day. Like I said, that's cool. But, okay, awesome. And then going back to the kids stuff, so are you working a lot with the kids in the schools here in Rutherford County, or just do you, I didn't ask in the beginning. I apologize. Do you have an office? Where do you work with the schools? Do they come to you? So throw it out there. How can people find you?
Most of it is virtual.
Oh, okay.
Most of it is virtual. I'm working on getting an office. Cool. But, we had COVID, and then I did pause for a while whenever we had a big placement for foster care. All of my work was done at home.
I gotcha.
It was nonstop coaching then.
Yeah, right.
But so I'm still working on getting an office to where I can do more in person now that things have opened back up. But most of it's virtual, and I find that most people, even when I have an in-person option available, prefer virtual.
Really?
Especially anxiety, because and some even prefer just over the phone and no video, because you can sit there and fidget. They don't have to worry about me looking at them or what they look like or making eye contact. Sit still. Exactly. Okay, even if they're not ADHD, they're just nervous, and they can be in their pajamas, or they can be sneaking some food in between. They don't have to worry.
Yeah. Okay.
It's one less thing to think about.
Yeah, I got you. So do you have any room for openings right now? If you do? Okay, gotcha. How can people find you or contact you if need be?
Yeah, my website is sara.healthandwellness.com. Okay. And then Instagram it's Sara Campbell.
Okay. I'll link to those in the description of the video and everything so people can find you for that. So awesome. So is there, I know we covered a lot and there's a lot more that you do. I'll let people go on your website and see some of that. But is there a certain area that you kind of more or less, I guess, specialize in, or that you deal more in, that is there, go for it. You know what I'm trying to say.
So I'm open to a lot, but primarily I work with anxiety, panic attacks, and the chronic illnesses. And it can be one or both. It doesn't have to be either side. I love working with teenagers and kids.
Oh, do you?
My women are great too. I love them. But I think teenagers are really fun. Yeah.
Nice. Now, you don't have to say who or anything like that, but is there a story in your mind that sticks out of a young kid that you've worked with that has just like blossomed into this, like, oh my gosh? So
yes.
Yeah.
So I can think of one. I actually would go to their house. Wanted to do in person, but anxiety was so severe that she couldn't leave the house.
Wow. Okay.
So I would just come to her and we would hang out and talk, and we just built a relationship first. Let her see that I was trustworthy and everything was going to be okay. Because it's hard to just pour your heart out to a stranger.
Yeah.
And then by the end, she was going to prom. She was going out with friends and working, getting out and about. So it's really, really neat to see. It's cool. So rewarding. I love it. I get so proud of them.
You ever have a moment where like her, for example, working with, and then all of a sudden you're in the grocery store and they walk by and you're like, oh my God.
I know, and I'm not really supposed to say anything either, so I have to wait on them to talk to me. And
that would be so hard.
Because of the privacy.
Oh my God.
But usually they do.
That's got to be so rewarding.
It is.
I can imagine your heart. You just get all joyful just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's amazing, and people can be helped more than they think they can. Typically, their way. Everyone is so much more capable than they think. Yeah, you just have to unlock it, and you need somebody who believes in you and has the right tools, and you got to work hard, but it's doable.
So, what do you see as far as reasons, or dare I say, excuses that people? I'm okay. I don't need the help. Something like that. Like, what's something you can help get those people over that hump?
Yeah, a lot of people, they feel like they're broken. Just kind of back to that, and accepting help would mean, there's something wrong with me, and it doesn't. I think 1 in 5 adults have some sort of mental health concern going on. Yeah, it's common, and everybody's going to go through it at some point in their life. So, accepting help doesn't mean that you're weak. It actually means that you're strong. I'm sure you've heard that before, but you're strong to go out and to actually seek that help. A lot of people say, I don't have the time or the money, or it does take a lot of work. Yeah. Outside of sessions, there's homework, there's practicing, there's a lot of work to it, but it's worth it, and you don't really have time not to.
Okay.
Because
awesome.
eventually, it catches up with you and you're not living your life and you're not enjoying it.
Yeah.
So,
I got you. Okay. I know this is a very low end example of that, I guess, but I have hearing issues, and I saw a video the other day that was perfect. It's a young girl. She had the cochlear implants, and she was going through some issues, and because you could see them, on the outside, and how she felt different, and people stare at her and things like that. Yeah. And this guy came up to her and he's like, he goes, look at this. And he put on his glasses and he goes, I can't see without him. He goes, you can't hear without him. It's the same thing.
That's right.
Nothing's wrong with us. And he was going around and like pointing people out in a nice way.
You're right.
And it was like, look, we all have something.
We do.
But then he like pointed the camera at her and he's like, you are a beautiful young woman. He's like, that does not define you. You're fine. I was like, like, dang, because I have hearing issues and it hit home with me. But the same type thing. Everybody's got something. Everybody, if you need a little help, there's nothing wrong with reaching out.
And there's such a stigma around mental health, or there was. I feel like social media has helped with that, I think.
Okay.
I think that's where a good
really?
thing has come out of social media.
How so? How do you mean?
There's just so much more awareness. There's so many videos about it. People are like, oh, this is anxiety. Oh, I think this way. This is what it feels like to have, like you were talking about how it feels like different voices.
Yeah.
They have that on social media, and people are just seeing that they're not alone in it. So I think that's getting better, but there's still a stigma around it. But I mean, just think back. Do you know of anyone who has not experienced a death or a loss or anxiety at some point? It's normal. We all go through it.
Yeah, I got you. Cool. Okay, well, I really appreciate you coming in and talking about all this. Thank you. I feel like we could go on for probably all day with something like this, but but I thank you. I want to be cognizant of your time. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
But one more time for everybody watching and listening, throw out your contact info. How can people find you if they want more info? All that.
Yeah, it's Sara Health and Wellness, and it's Sara no H, SARA.
There you go.
sara.healthandwellness.com is my website. Instagram is it's Sara Campbell. You can always text my phone number too. I work with teenagers, so I'm up for texting. You can text me or call me, and I usually get back pretty quickly.
Okay, good deal. And I'll put all that all in the description, so if people want to reach out, they can. So, but again, thank you very much. I have a feeling we'll probably do like a round 2 on this sometime in the future, because this is very informative. I would love to keep going. So, well, cool. Well, on that note, I'll end here. And for everybody watching, listening, thanks for tuning in as always. I appreciate it. See you on the next one.